Hey everybody, here is phase number 2 of getting the TiViBox back into service. In a previous video I did a internal check of the power supply and didn't notice any issues, put it all back together, did some voltage testing, and now we're on to the next phase, which will be dropping in the motherboard. So the motherboard that we're using, if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, about 9 months ago I picked up a couple of part systems from the Grid store, Computer Works store, and one of them was an Asus desktop. And the reason why I got that was it was a cheap price. I don't remember being too much, like maybe $20-something. Had a nice motherboard in it. Now, from what I remember, the BIOS sitting over like anything in the way of overclocking, but this is the board. Asus motherboard, M4A78LT. Now this, again, this board was pulled out of an Asus retail desktop computer. It was Asus's version of an HP, more or less. So it's not exactly the same as your retail Asus boards. Now I'd say in build quality it's about identical. It looks just like a retail board you would have picked up off of Newegg back in the day, around this board's time. But like the BIOS, I don't think offers the same functionality. We have 4 gigs of DDR3 already on board, already installed. So we got plenty of RAM, which is nice. This machine is going to be another YouTube on TV system and one media center system, but I may have other things in mind for this as well. That'll be planned for later on. Like perhaps I might use this machine to capture and store CCTV. Who knows? I mean, I got a 2 terabyte hard drive sitting over here. So that's, again, that's for the future, but I want to get this thing assembled. Now this board, I should mention, offers a ton of onboard stuff. We've got fantastic audio. Pretty sure it's gigabit LAN. 6 USB 2.0 ports. This does not have USB 3. We have an HDMI, a DVI, and a VGA port on board. We have an optical audio out right there. So this is the pretty decent board for a home theater PC. You got all the different kinds of connections that you would need. And I'm going to try out the onboard video, see how that does. And if necessary, I can drop in a video card. I got this GeForce 210 graphics card that used to be in this machine before. Now, since we're not dealing with cable TV anymore, I don't think I have to worry too much about it being HTTP compliant. Perhaps if I do use YouTube TV service, maybe I will have to look into that at one point, but for now, we're going to try just onboard video. Okay, so I've already snapped in the IO shield. I know it's off screen, you can't see it, but it's in there. There's one thing we got to get out of the way first. You guys probably ain't going to believe this. So, for example, your typical motherboard front panel connection consists of a connector that looks just like the one I'm holding right here. This 10-pin connection with a deleted pin on the corner. But Asus decided to do a little bit of a jerk move here and make this special kind of connector. Yes. So the case this came out of, it offered, the original motherboard connector for the factory board, but they did supply a standard. They did supply the standard style in here as well. So that way, if you replace this board with something better, you could still use you could plug this right in. But the opposite method of reusing this board for a different system, unless your case has the loose connections for your power LED, hard drive LED, power button, and reset button, and if it's just all in one like this, you're going to have to do some repinning. Yeah, sounds like fun, doesn't it? So, what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to take these wires out of here and save this black connector. Pull this one off. And pull the wires out of this one. And stick them into the other connector. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Well, it's going to be mighty fun. Alright, so what we have to do here is we have to grab a small screwdriver. Try to get you up close here where you can see. So what we have to do here is for the connectors that you're wanting to pull out, you press the pins forward. Easier said than done, of course. Lift up. Like I said, easier said than done. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to unravel this a bit. Maybe that way it'll cooperate a little better for us. Have to lift up on this. Careful not to break the tab. Again, easier said than done. The noise you might hear in the background is my wood stove fan. This is my first fire of the season, by the way. If you haven't been watching my videos for a while, you may not recognize the sound. See, I gotta unravel these wires. They keep trying their best to ravel back up, though. I think I did twist them together a while back to try to tidy things up, but once those wires stay in that position for a while, they don't want to cooperate and they don't want to budge at all. What I'm going to try to do here is I think I'm going to do these on pairs at a time. I'm about to say the heck with this connector. I'm going to just go ahead and pop these back since they keep snapping back down. Alright, let's do this. We need a smaller screwdriver. Use my my digital camera screwdriver, as I call it. This is the one I typically use when working on cameras and things like that. Focus camera, come on. So let's try this again. Sometimes you can actually bend these back far enough to where they'll stay out of the way, but not so far to where they break. Okay, that one come out. We'll do the same thing for the next one. I'm going to fish these out one at a time. Well, what I meant to say is I'm going to do these in pairs, so that way I don't lose track of which one is which. Okay, so that one is for the power button. One thing you can do is if you aren't sure, in the case of power button, what you can do is take your multimeter and set the resistance, and you can hook it up to these and press the button and figure out which one is which. But this is the power button. So, then grab this out of the floor. I'm going to remove all of the connectors off of this one, because the motherboard does have a reference available on it for it does actually have everything labeled. I'm taking a look at that right now, actually. What's interesting is I can wire in a PC speaker on this plug as well, and it don't have one wired in. It does have the pin out noted before you can actually wire in a PC speaker. For me, the PC speaker isn't a requirement. It's primarily there for diagnostics and for those of you who are running like old DOS games or something like that. You games that are really old that play through the PC speaker. That's the only time you really would need it. Okay, I got it out. Unfortunately, on one of these, I just about broke this off. It might fall off. Of course, it's all said and done. Okay, so now with this one, I can go ahead and start putting stuff together. So again, this is the power button. Power switch goes here and here. Okay, so I got that hooked in. Is the power switch, and now for the reset switch. In case you guys are wondering, like, Nick, why don't you just take the buttons and LEDs from the other case and just use them on this case? Well, that's why. They're not like a standard thing, and also this lacks the reset switch. So I'm just changing everything over. Yeah, this is really a butthole kind of move from ASUS. And it looks like, oh, I actually plugged into the wrong one. So I gotta pull that back out and redo that. Like, whoops. I was thinking of the power LED. It actually, on this board, the power LED is actually spaced out. Something I haven't seen in years. Normally on boards like from the 90s would you see something like that. Move that over just one, and oh yeah, there's the tab I just about broke out, so I need to push that in all the way and press that down, and it's about to fall out. It's almost falling out. Well, the thing I have to keep in mind is when I plug this in, just to make sure that one pin seats in fully. Okay, now for the reset switch. On this, if I break the tabs, it's like, who gives a crap? These are easy to replace. If I break one of these real bad, I have lots more in my collection. Matter of fact, I don't think this is even original. I think this case used to have headers, individual plastic headers for each item, like a lot of older cases had. This here actually came out of a compact, because back in, I forget what year, I swapped out the LEDs in this case. It used to have just green LEDs for the hard drive activity and power. I swapped them out for blue and amber LEDs for the power and hard disk drive activity respectively. And it looks a whole lot better, I think. It looks more modern. Pop this one in there. Look at the pinout on the case. Oh, I'm sorry, the motherboard. Yep, that's right. Okay, so now ID LED, which is hard drive activity, to go down here. Not sure how well you're seeing that, but to go down here, and the power LED, one here and one here. And also, you have to keep in mind with your indicators, they're polarized. You do have polarity. And it does have a positive marked on the ID LED, but not the power LED. I'm going to assume that the power LED positive is on the same side as the positive of the ID LED, or hard drive activity LED. So this one's pretty straightforward. The wires here are color coded for the respective LED, and I know that the power LED is hooked into the blue LED is hooked into the power indicator, and the hard drive activity has the amber one. I tell you what, guys, it's getting pretty toasty in here with that wood stove going. It's supposed to get down to like 35 degrees tonight, and it's down to like 43 right now, and it's like 78 degrees in the kitchen. It's probably about the same here. I tell you guys, if you want your house to be like a sauna during the wintertime, wood stove is the answer to that. You can heat your house up to 80 degrees and not have to worry about having a super high gas or electric bill. Well, it depends on how easy of access you have to firewood, though, whether you have to pay a bunch of money for it if you get it for free. That all factors in as well. Okay, so now I'm going to just go ahead and pop these others out as well, because I know that I can visually tell which ones they are. And they're kind of wired together, or twisted together rather. So I know what pair goes to what. It's like, how dare you, Asus? Why do you make me go to this kind of trouble to reuse your motherboard? Okay. Jeez. Alright, so power goes see here. In here. And last but not least, hard drive activity goes right there and right here. Okay, finally we got this thing wired in, so it will plug right into this motherboard. Good job, Asus. Appreciate that. Alright. I'm just checking to make sure our holes in the case are in the proper spots, and they are. So now all it's left to do is drop the motherboard in. It looks like actually we're going to need more standoff for this one, because this is a rather large motherboard. Now I should have some standoffs available. See what size screw these here take. Yeah, they take the standard coarse threaded screw. I should have some standoffs in here. in my sea of stuff. Now the question is, are they the right height? That I'm not 100% certain about. I may have to dig further to find some that are. Otherwise, what can happen is we can have a little bit of flex on the motherboard. Not exactly the best thing to do. But we may have to just go with it. Yeah, I think we're going to have to just go with it because to be honest, I think at one time I had a big board in this thing. I had to just let it hang over the side. That wasn't the best thing to do. Alright, so one thing to keep in mind is when you're pulling standoffs out of your collection, make sure they're for the right screw. Make sure they match up with the rest of the ones in the case. Loose hair inside there. Walk out and check on the fire. I'm gonna probably let that fire go out because it's toasty in here. Yeah, I'll just put these standoffs into place. Use them. Yeah, this particular case didn't come with its additional standoffs. Yeah, the motherboard that was originally in here, if this originally had the board, I can't remember if it did or not. It's been so long since I got this case. It was a former part system, by the way. Can't remember if it had a large motherboard or a standard size micro ATX board. But we'll go ahead and drop the board in and mount it to place. This board has some sort of Athlon 2 processor, socket AM3 processor installed. The processor that is let's see, the processor that used to be in here in this machine is now installed on the CubeCuber Plexi. It's a Athlon 64 X2 4600 plus. And this big board has a tight fit in here. Yeah. I'm gonna bend these little tabs on the I.O. shield up out of the way. There's nothing like building your system and later discovering that some tabs on the I.O. shield went right into a USB port or into an HDMI port or something of that nature. That's always fun. Well, it is. This board is such a tight fit in here. Mind you, it is a compatible fit. It's just tight Gittigan in here. But it's in there now. Jeez. Yeah, guys, to be honest, if this motherboard offered, let's see, overclocking and stuff like that, I would probably install this on the Plexi. But I might get me a better board for the Plexi later on. That'll be when that time comes. Because, matter of fact, the board that's on the Plexi right now is actually older than this one. But it offers all the goodies and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, with the BIOS update, it may support an AM3 processor. I'll have to try it at some point. because I do have some extra Athlon 2s kicking around, needing a system to go into. I think the TDP rating on this processor is 65 watts, so not too much. It's practically the same as those Ryzen 3 2200G and Ryzen 5 2400G systems that I built. Practically the same kind of power draw, I believe, and heat output, more or less. I tell you what, guys, for like a small home theater PC, I'm using like a micro ATX motherboard, a single 3.5-inch hard drive, optical drive, and stuff like that. This is a pretty nice case to build out of. I've got 2 of these. As a matter of fact, this past spring I found a 3rd one, but my coworker was interested in it, and I was like, yeah, go ahead and have it. It's a nice case. Not sure what he's doing with it. I think he said he's going to make an office computer out of it, which is perfect for that. Matter of fact, this case actually has a key lock on it, which is very surprising, as cases typically didn't have that unless you go back to, let's say, 1994. Or 1995 at the latest. Yeah, key locks were a big thing on PCs back in the 80s and early 90s. But with the modernization of Windows and having secured user accounts, the key lock isn't exactly necessary anymore, unless you're talking about like a server or something like that. The key locks would sometimes prevent you getting into the case, while sometimes they would do nothing more than preventing your machine from booting up or something like that. So yeah, those 2 standoffs are just a tad bit lower, but should be fine, as long as you're not putting a whole bunch of flex on the motherboard. In other words, I'd be more likely to put flex on the board by not having those standoffs there. Be more likely to put flex on the board and plugging in cables and stuff like that. Okay. So all of our screws are in place. Just going to plug in our USB ports and our see our audio. Now this board, board does not have FireWire, so we won't be using that one. See, that's a FireWire hook up there. This is the audio. Tell you what, guys, this board offers, I say, just about as much I/O as a retail board would, which is pretty nice. Now, I do have a TV tuner that's I do have a digital TV tuner that would be sufficient enough for like watching stuff off an antenna. I may drop that in there, but it won't be tonight. It might be sometime later on, after I build this system. Or after I get it running, I should say. Make sure everything is hooked up right. on my header again. And pop this in there. Again, how dare you, ASUS, for making this such a hassle? How dare you? Alrighty. Next, we'll plug in our solid state drive. Actually, I'm gonna hold off on the SSD. It is right there, though. I can see. I'm not gonna plug up to the motherboard just yet. I'm going to actually plug this up to some cables to the monitor and such, and see if it posts. And I'm going to do that voltage check as I had mentioned in my previous video. Make sure the power supply voltages are a little bit more in spec. I mean, I'd say they were in spec in the previous video, but they were kind of pushing it on the high side in a couple of areas. So, and let's not forget to plug in our CPU power connector. And it's funny, this power supply. Actually, no, this one don't, but the Diablo Tech unit had a adapter for 8 pins. The last thing you ever want to do is run a 8-pin motherboard with something like that. This thing does have a video card connector though. a 6/8-pin video card adapter with a plug. It adapts either way. But yeah, I don't think I'd run a graphics card off of this power supply. Definitely ain't ready. It's definitely not built for 450 watts. Let's just say that. I'd say it's good for 250 watts, maybe 300 pushing it. Alright. So, I'm going to plug it up and we'll do some testing. Okay, so power supply is plugged in. It's supplying power to the system in standby. I'm going to do another check. And see, for example, what our 5-volt standby is doing. .19, so it's down just a little bit. Again, a little bit on the high side, but it's within spec, barely. Not sure if you're seeing this or not. 5.19, 5.2. So, I'm going to start it up and see if it posts and stuff like that. Okay, so apparently the chassis fan is currently set to run at full speed. I'm going to be fixing that. But it does post. Let me go ahead and check our other voltages while we're at it. Let me do this off camera. I'll read them out to you. Plus 3.3 is still doing 3.41. I think it's a little lower than what it was doing before. Plus 5 is 5.07. Power good is 5, so that's obviously it posted, so power good is there. 12 is 12.02, so it's right on the dot there. Our other 3.3 volt lead is doing, again, 3.41. Minus 12 is 11.51. Okay, so I'm going to restart this thing and we'll go into the BIOS and see if we can reconfigure Smart Fan to slow that chassis fan down a little bit. It's a little loud. We definitely don't need it running full speed with the power supply fan kicking a lot of air. Yeah, that chassis fan was actually was formerly a CPU cooling fan out of an old Gateway from like 2002. See, delete should get us on this now, I think. Yep, delete. There's nothing plugged in, of course. It's keeping time. Athlon 2 X2 220, 2.8 GHz processor, 4 gigs of RAM installed. BIOS build was from 2010. That seems about right for this thing. AMD 760 chipset, I do believe. 760G. This does have gigabit LAN, by the way, if you didn't see it on the motherboard earlier. It listed gigabit LAN. Change that to yes. Yeah, this thing... Yeah, it's funny. USB 3.0 was, in fact, out when this was made. I'm not sure why they didn't include it. It has an anti-surge support they talk about. At least they did back then. So this comes to show the accuracy of the onboard. Yeah, this shows the accuracy of the onboard voltage readouts. They were a little bit low. They're all a little bit lower than what I actually read with the meter. The only option here is ignore. It says CPU QFan function enabled. So what you can do with this is you can check your Ethernet cable. I'm going to plug in my yellow Ethernet cable, which I'm going to guess is between, I'm going to say it's probably a 6 to 8 foot cable. So check this out. Okay, this actually happens during post. May actually try this. There's a flash option. I wonder why this thing doesn't control the speed of the chassis fan. That's kind of dumb. It only controls the speed of the CPU fan. Yeah, that's rather disappointing. Alright, let's go ahead and exit the BIOS. Let's see if it checks the LAN cable. See what it does here. Okay, so no, this isn't what I thought it was, I don't think. Let's see. It goes so fast you can't really read it. Oh well. What I thought it was some motherboards have a utility built into the BIOS that will check and tell you the length of your cable, your Ethernet cable. So let's go back into the BIOS. Huh. Okay. Not sure here. Apologize to everybody. I'm just going to disable that. That's a real bummer that I can't. The thing won't slow down the speed of the chassis fan. Usually with motherboards like this, they'll regulate both the CPU fan and the system fan. Now let's see how loud the CPU fan is. It should speed up. Yeah, that's loud. See, now it's at full speed. Yeah, I'm not the craziest about that. Just for a moment, I'm going to unplug the chassis fan and see how the system sounds without it. Honestly, I think the power supply fan alone may be enough to actually handle this whole system. I may source in one of these fans that's not quite as stout, maybe not one that's not quite as fast. Or if I can, or maybe I can find one that has a thermistor on board that regulates itself. Anyways, we'll come to that in a later time, but it does in fact post. And now we need to just go ahead and drop in a CD drive, and we'll plug up the solid state drive. Okay, so we know the power button works. I'm going to test the reset button. Let's let it, okay, do that. I hate the reset button in this case. It's like one of those little toys where you have to put a pin in the thing to reset the thing. Okay, it does work. Alrighty. So now we'll go ahead and plug up the solid state drive. I'm curious, guys. I'm very curious if this thing will actually boot up. It had Windows 7 on it, and but the motherboard was a NVIDIA GeForce based chipset board. A lot of times when you swap hardware, Windows will outright refuse to boot, due to drivers and things like that. But I'm curious, so we're going to try it. We're going to see if this thing will not post, but boot up with the existing operating system that's on that drive. What I'm doing now, guys, I'm plugging in the SSD. Now I'm going to move the camera and let you watch what I'm doing. Why not? Okay, so the drive, the optical drive that came out of this was an IDE drive, which I'll be adding to my ever-increasing tower of IDE optical drives. I'm going to have to donate some, get rid of them here pretty soon, because I got a stack. That's about close to 4 feet tall, I think. Okay, so this case has a tool-free design on its drives, which is pretty cool. But sometimes it's more of a pain to deal with when you could just pop in your screwdriver and especially your cordless electric screwdriver and just unscrew the screws. Not have to deal with this. So that pulls out like that. Let's grab a Sata optical drive. Yeah, I only have 3 versus, I'm not going to count, that'd be wasting too much time, because I got a whole stack of them up there. It's crazy. I'm going to actually use a SATA adapter for the optical drive. I'm going to leave that other additional SATA cable available in case I want to put in a hard drive, which I might later on. I might put that 2 terabyte drive back in this thing at some point if I need it. Stick this back in there. It's like a little leaf spring. I don't really care much for it. I tell you guys, I'd assume daggum half screws over some of these tool-free designs. Even literally, that can be a pain to deal with. I got just a couple of zip ties. I'm going to go ahead and so I can tidy up these cables a little bit better. The biggest challenge here is, aside from regular cable management, is keeping the cables from getting caught up in the CPU fan, causing an overheat to happen. Okay, I'll go ahead and grab a SATA cable. This one, I don't know if it's good or not, but we'll try it. Matter of fact, no, I'm not going to bother with this. And I probably, let me see. No, take it back. I'll use it because I thought these other two I had laying over here were 90-degree angle ones, but this should do. Plug this into the motherboard. Sorry I can't see what I'm doing here. This will take just a moment. Yeah, I'm ready to see if this thing's going to boot up. It'd be interesting to say for sure. I'm going to have to use a 90-degree SATA cable here because otherwise it won't go in place because of that tall heatsink fan. So if it come out of the motherboard, that would be nice. There we go. Okay. Let me find my collection here of all my SATA cables. Of course, in a let's see, a Walmart bag full of them. That didn't take long. I already found one. Much better. Okay. So both our drives are installed. Now we'll be testing this thing out. I'm just curious to see if that operating system on the SSD is going to actually boot up. Okay, buddy, let's go ahead and see what this thing does. See if we can boot into our Windows 7. I had to go in and make sure all the cables were seated up, and then we should be good to go this time. Is it going to work? Let's see. As long as that flag keeps moving and no blue screens. Guys, this is like going into a time capsule from early 2016. And it's going to need drivers and stuff like that. Like, you know what? Just for the heck of it, let's let it get all the drivers and stuff it needs. Okay, now that drivers and all the other stuff associated with moving a Windows installed to a different system has been taken care of, let's go ahead and see how this thing does. Now, if I really want to, I could plug in that hard disk drive and see if I could access the TV recordings, but I will get the error stating that copying prohibited. I would get that error. But watch this, Media Center is going to launch, and look at this beautiful background, guys. I tell you, it's such a shame that Media Center it's no longer being supported. I had this set up really nicely, by the way. As you see, I customized it and changed the background. Matter of fact, let's look at the guide. Of course, it's 2 years behind on guide listings, but look at this. You see even how I went as far as to get all the channel logos and stuff put in. Yeah, this was nice. It wasn't perfect, because there were some bugs associated with the seating setup. You know, it was a cable card setup. And I tell you, this was so nice. But unfortunately, these days with Spectrum, this is my parents. Again, if you haven't seen my other videos, TV internet, $150 a month. It's ridiculous. But amazingly, we were able to boot up just fine. And let's see, I used to use this computer for look at this, AVG 2015. I can't remember if I think I took this out of service in early 2016. I want to say it was early 2016, but maybe it was late 2015. I can't remember. Let's see, the last time we really needed this thing was 2015. My grandmother passed away in 2015, and then she no longer, of course, was there to watch TV in the second bedroom. It was a whole bunch of different things went into this, but yeah, I used to use this computer to do demonstrations and use that as sort of I use the big screen to display videos, pictures, and stuff like that. Like, this is from when I made a video about Facebook removing a legitimate review that I posted to a car dealership site. Yeah, a crooked car dealership didn't like my review. Yeah, essentially they screwed over my mom years ago on a car she bought, and I tried to note that, and of course, Facebook, yeah, they bias their reviews. If you are a page man, if somebody posts a negative review about your company, just ask Facebook and they'll remove it for you and penalize the user who posted it. Yeah, that's fantastic. But anyways, the TiViBox is up and running. Now I'm going to be doing more stuff to it in a later video, including getting Windows 10 on it. So that'd be for later on. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well, guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's CubeComp MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.